このゴールが達成できればゲームを作ることができます。だけどさらに支援をいただければもっと規模の大きいゲームを作ることができます。もっと敵が増える、もっとボスが増える、さらにもっと武器も増える、そしてさらにモードも増える。
What are we transmuting this time?
Good evening. I'm Anestoran, the keeper of these archives. You've come at a good time because I was just shelving the various grimoires and tomes of my collection when I came across this new edition. It is the story of a gothic castle infested with demons come to punish mankind, of a protagonist who bravely backsteps forth to contend with not only the evil within the castle, but within themselves as well. That's right. Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. The year is 2014, and fresh out of Konami's grasp, Koji Igarashi has been encouraged by fans of the Castlevania series to continue developing games and carry that franchise's spirit forward. And that year, the legendary developer would announce a Kickstart campaign to produce a game in the vein of his work on Castlevania. Joining the team was Michiru Yamane, known for composing much of Castlevania's iconically beautiful music, as well as Ayame Kojima, whose art is instantly recognizable and impossible not to be swept away by. Many other notable names were involved in development and production, forming something of a dream team, one undoubtedly worthy of carrying the torch of the nearly dormant Castlevania franchise. The Kickstarter was a resounding success, as fans were obviously voracious for another true-to-form IGA game. Raising over $5.5 million out of the $500,000 goal, the success of the campaign resulted in many stretch goals for the development, including a companion bite-sized game, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which itself got a sequel in time. I'll be going over much of the additional and notably free content updates that were released after launch. While the development did see it fall into some common Kickstarter pitfalls, the developers listened to the fans, even redesigning much of the game's visuals, managed expectations, and diligently worked to deliver on their ambitious project. The new age of Igavania would arrive in June 2019, and in August 2019, I would sink my fangs into it, becoming absolutely enthralled by the world within. Join me as we recount the tale of a cursed child, a demonic castle, and a slashing good time. Our story is set in a vaguely Industrial Revolution era England. Technology and science are on the rise. The Alchemists Guild, an old world group focused on advancing magic at all costs, has their foundation closely tied to the faith of the people. They began to fear the shifting attitude towards faith in this new era and took drastic measures to ensure they would retain their power. A series of inhumane biological tests began with the goal of creating a sacrifice that would allow demons to enter their dimension and restore the fear of the supernatural in the population. These tests were conducted by taking crystals that were known to attract demons and infusing them into orphan children so that they could be sacrificed, thereby throwing the gates of hell open. The alchemists, overzealous and overconfident, reaped what they sowed, sacrificing the children and allowing uncountable hordes of demons to enter their reality. The infernal incursion laid waste to the country, murdering many innocents. And although the church was able to repel the Hellspawn, the price of the alchemist's actions had been paid in blood. 10 years have passed, and mankind too soon forgets tragedy. Unbeknownst to the church, 2 orphans had survived the sacrificial rite. The boy, Jeeble, by some miracle, was spared when all others had succumbed to the curse, and the girl, Miriam, who had fallen into a deep slumber before her ritual had taken place. Now Jeeble has taken control of an ancient tome and is summoning demons to take revenge on humanity for wronging him. He has manifested a nightmarish castle, Hellhold, and controls a vast army of demons. Who could possibly stop such a cruel crusade? Miriam miraculously wakes up, only to find out about what Jeeble has done, and takes off with the dissenting member of the former Alchemists Guild, Johannes, across the sea to Arventville. She is in disbelief at Jeeble's actions, and holds out hope that his good soul can yet be saved, and seeks to investigate what's really going on. It is at this point that the player awakens as Miriam on this galleon Minerva, hellbound. Interrupting an introductory chat with our first of few friendly faces, Johannes, the ship is boarded by demons. Minerva serves as our tutorial section, and it is one of the best in the genre. It does an amazing job to not only familiarize the player with the controls, but also give guaranteed access to many different types of weapons, a piece of equipment for each slot, and a shard or two to introduce them to the system. The hook of this game is without a doubt its combat system. 2D action in a mostly melee and magic affair, Miriam is not limited to a simple whip and holy water. No, the weapons are extremely vast and varied, and the magic system even more so. You can go through this game any number of times and have a completely different approach to each encounter every time. Variety, however, does not thwart the challenge presented in the castle. If anything, as your arsenal grows, so does the intimidation and power of the demons. Hacking and slashing her way across the crumbling ship, room to room, Miriam learns that not all demons are created equal. Some reward relentless action, and some reward patience, and waiting for a good time to strike. But of course, lethality comes naturally to her. Besting the invading foes and uncovering chests yields experience, loot, and of course, blood. As Miriam gains levels, she becomes stronger, her health, mana, and other stats increase. The loot can come in the form of immediate benefits, weapons, equipment, and spells. But combat can also often yield raw materials, each with a specific drop source that can be used to upgrade your various equipment or create new pieces entirely. Reaching the bow of the ship, Miriam is confronted by Jeeble himself, with an ominous lunar-themed demon named Gremory looming behind him. Jeeble does his best to join me monologue, but Miriam is resolute in her goal of freeing Jeeble from his self-induced nightmare. The framing of Gremory in this cutscene does hint at something deeper going on, yet referring to Jeeble as master solidifies his position of power. A confrontation with Jeeble will have to wait, however, as he challenges Miriam to find him in Hellhold as a test of her humanity. Just as he disappears, the source of the giant tentacles berating Miriam throughout the ship manifests as the first real challenge, Vepar. This boss is not by any means easy, but the player is given an ample range of weapons to adapt their approach. The moves are pretty well telegraphed and slow enough to ease the player into what this game's most challenging type of encounter can be. With that foe defeated, a new powerful shard absorbed, Igarashi formally invites you to
Bloodstained.
Miriam, now on the shores of Arvenville, continues stage left as so many heroes do, fighting her way through the new, more fearsome inhabitants of the overrun town until she finds the safe hold of survivors. These people are the only friendly faces Miriam may see throughout her journey, and though they are few, they are here to assist in her seemingly insurmountable task. Leaving the demon slaying to the professional, they offer assistance in a few other ways. Some give quests, while others act as vendors for anything from consumables to food to upgrading shards and equipment. There's even a farmer who will grow any seeds you find in this crumbling town. Chiefly among them is an exorcist sent here on behalf of the church, Dominique, who offers to serve as the game's only general trader and even offers to buy some of those pesky dangerous extra shards. She tells Miriam that she is curious about how she is connected to the lord of the castle, Gebel, considering you were both shard binders and it seems odd that you would happen to wake up at the same time he summoned the castle. However, she makes it clear that she trusts Miriam and will support her quest to do what she must. Johannes, Dominique, and the other survivors stay within the safety of Arvenville while Miriam slide cancels forward into Hellhold. As Miriam ventures forth, there may come a time, or several, or hundreds, where the onslaught of demons overwhelm. When she dies, she must reload the last save, which can be done in any save room. To some modern acquainted gamers, this may seem as a bit too punishing, losing precious progress in time. But in my experience, the spacing of the save rooms was quite fair. Not knowing exactly where they will be still creates suspense as you engage in exploratory expedition from one to the next without dying. Additionally, there will be at least one teleport room per location on the map. These are a free way of fast traveling around the castle, and can get you back to the refuge of town to restock before continuing the assault. The entrance to Hellhold seems ominous, yet strangely, and perhaps in a show of confidence, remains unguarded. The grand entrance, towering to unseen heights above Miriam, is only a finger to the body of this monolithic Gothic structure. Hellhold and its surrounding areas are broken up into many sections, each presenting uniquely frightening challenges, rewards, and secrets. While the progression and exploration may seem a bit linear at first, Miriam will quickly find herself presented with multiple paths, some inaccessible, at least for now. In true Metroidvania fashion, there are certain items that will improve Miriam's ability to traverse the map and explore the castle's many secrets. Each area of Hellhold feels wholly distinct in not only the actual environment, but the enemies you encounter within as well. Cutting down slime person and bat alike, Miriam makes her way through what feels like home to any Castlevania player. Passing by a fountain overflowing with blood, she stumbles upon a cloaked stranger. He turns around and is revealed to be Alfred, a high-ranking alchemist, one directly involved in the Shard-Bearer experiments, and once father figure to Miriam. Despite Miriam demanding answers for the atrocities he committed, he shrugs her off, only focused on looking for a book that Gebel has acquired. Just then, Johannes runs in, as surprised as Miriam at Alfred's presence. It is revealed that Alfred is looking for the Liber Logaeth, an ancient tome that was used by the Alchemist Guild, and now Gebel, to summon demons into this world. Alfred warns the two not to get in his way or he will be forced to kill them, and promptly leaves. Miriam wants to go after Alfred, but Johannes reasons that by focusing on Gebel they can thwart Alfred's plans by cutting him off from the Liber Logaeth. With that, Johannes returns to town and Miriam continues onward. Presuming any nefarious castle-dwelling villain would reside at the top, Miriam climbs heavensward. But before she even gets out of the entrance, we run into the edgiest demon slayer this side of E1M1, Zangetsu. Those playing with English voice and a keen gamer instinct might recognize the gruff voice of David Hayter.
Reek of sorcery, Shardbinder.
And what am I?
Snake isn't the only familiar voice Igarashi has invited to Hellhold. In fact, the cast is overflowing with some well-known voice talent.
I am your executioner.
He is not a fan of Shardbinders, demons, or sorcery, and Miriam apparently reeks of all three. Sporting a fair but punishing moveset, this is likely the first boss that will give Miriam some trouble, and also shows the player that some bosses can have multiple phases. But just as there seems no end in sight, Dominique barges in and interrupts the bout. She pleads to Zangetsu that you are on their side, and his ire should be directed towards the alchemists. He voices his disgruntled disagreement, believing all associated with the demonic should be cut down, but he reluctantly agrees to continue on his mission of finding Alfred. Like any good bully, he warns Miriam to steer clear of him in the halls if she wants to stay alive. Continuing ever onward into the depths of this demonic domicile, the next powerful foe Miriam comes across is known as Kraftwerk, a spider made of stained glass. By now, Miriam is getting the hang of hacking, slashing, and casting her abilities, so it goes down without much trouble. When killed, Kraftwerk drops our first of a few key shards to traverse the castle. Using this one lets Miriam pick up some large objects that would otherwise be in her way. One such object was very noticeable in the blood fountain room. Pushing upward through Hellhold, Miriam exorcises the demons infesting the unholy cathedral. She maneuvers through the murderous machines and shifting bookshelves of the library, but not before having a chance encounter with Jeeble and Gremory. He taunts her and calls her foolish for believing she can wield the power of these demons and still call herself human. Jeeble, despite being corrupted, still wants Miriam to join him as he believes they can be more powerful together. He just needs to wait until Miriam absorbs enough demonic essence to see the world as he does. Just then, Alfred bursts in and launches an attack at Jeeble. The two briefly duel, and on Gremory's advice, Jeeble teleports away to conserve his energy. Without a word said to Miriam, Alfred gives chase. Miriam, believing her destination still lies at the top of the satanic structure, continues climbing. She reaches a spiraling outer portion of the tower that truly showcases the unique 2.5D art style the game has chosen. It isn't very often the game takes advantage of this, but when it does, it gives a real sense of depth and scale to Hellhold. Reaching the top of the accursed tower, Miriam believes her journey is nearing an end. This feeling quickly dissipates as a rumbling is heard on both sides.
Are you tired of your boring old haircut? Maybe you want to impress the shredding demon girl. Or maybe you want to finally be noticed by a certain handsome librarian. Come on down to Killer Todd's and leave with the closest shave you've ever had. I've never felt lighter. He's got knives for hands and is literally free right now, located in the Diane K Cathedral Shopping Center.
Where was I? Oh yes, the rumbling. Climbing down from further up the tower appears before Miriam a great dragon. So large it is a wonder the tower supports it slithering down the edge. The insides of this dragon bursting forth from an apparent wound. Or is it a mutation, brought on by its twisted demonic nature? No time to speculate. Miriam runs the other way, hoping to escape its rows of exposed teeth. Before she gets far, this horrifying creature reveals itself as an unnatural abomination. A second head of this great beast cuts Miriam off from going further down the tower. Fighting the largest demon yet is no easy task, but Miriam knows her power is stronger. After all, you did bring some potions, didn't you? After what seems like an endless back and forth between razor-sharp claws, mangled teeth, and fire breathing, Miriam slays Valak, the twin-headed dragon. Collecting one of the strongest shards in the game, the way upward is now clear. The next area of Hellhold Miriam comes across is a grand mechanical library, filled with instruments of pain that don't seem conducive to reading. Walls and floors made out of spikes, floating demonic books, and even if Miriam were able to take a seat, the very chair she sits on springs to life and throws her into the nearest maw of blades. Amongst these shelves, Miriam finds the librarian. His name is O.D., or Orlok Dracul. He is voiced by none other than Robert Belgrade, another Castlevania veteran known for the voice of Alucard in Symphony of the Night.
I've picked no quarrel with you.
He allows Miriam to check out books, as any good librarian would, on the premise that you will in fact return them. These tomes have the ability to raise a number of stats and serve as a boost in an area Miriam may be lacking, or desiring more power. As the game progresses, you can check out more books. And don't worry, there's surely no fines for keeping them as long as you'd like. Continuing on from the library would seem impossible, requiring some way to fit through a very narrow space. Miriam will have to find another way around, or look for a solution to this puzzle. Ever further into the castle, Miriam stumbles upon a train station. But to come aboard, she needs a boarding pass. Slaughtering demons by the hundreds is nothing but a Saturday, but climbing over these access rails is impossible. Regardless, Miriam returns to our newly friended bookworm to see if it has any lead on requiring such a pass. As it turns out, he can create it for us, but we'll need a photograph, of course. Miriam has never heard of such a thing, but OD insists Dominique and the church have access to this mystical technology. I'll admit at this point the pacing of the story and the urgency it previously presented were starting to misalign themselves, but fear not, because I believe it quickly gets back on track. Dominique obliges, saying that she only needs some silver bromide in order to capture Miriam's likeness and make it appear on the plate. Luckily, she found just that alchemical ingredient off the corpse of the dragon we had just killed. Miriam sits down, says cheese, and thanks to the work of Todd, takes a gorgeous picture. Now that she has the picture, she returns to OD to assemble a boarding pass. And with that errand complete, she now has access to the demonic train at the Bridge of Evil. Hoping for a peaceful ride to where this train leads, Miriam arrives at the station only to be confronted by Zangetsu once again. Tensions are high, but it would seem that Zangetsu needs us to help him pass a door that is only accessible with sorcery. A loathsome thought for him, but he agrees to partner up for the time being. Aboard, they are met with assassins and other demons. Not only that, but it would seem that they are on borrowed time as the train looks to explode. The player is given 5 minutes in the only section, bar a side quest race, that is timed. It is a pretty generous time, however, even giving time to grab optional chests. But the tension of the looming clock and the speed of the train creates yet another amazing set piece. This all leads to the encounter with the cause of the train's destructive tendency, the demon known as Glutton Train. A mass of gear, oil, and demonic energy stuck to the engine of the train. With no Sabin to help suplex it, it's up to our unlikely duo to fight through the onslaught of bullets and swings to take this train down. Of course, with the might of these two, the demonic train stands no chance, and Zangetsu seems to soften to the shard bearer. Parting ways for now while they attend to their business, Miriam finds herself in a laboratory that would make Frankenstein screech. Various vials of green liquid, bodies in tortured positions, or locked in test tubes, all make it clear that vile experiments were being done here. Perhaps this is where the shard bearers were being perfected by the alchemists in their twisted vision of controlling the population through demonic summonings. Who will be at the end of this, Miriam wonders. Surrounded by the test tubes of subjects in a deeper part of the lab, Miriam finds... Understandably surprised, she asks Dominique why she is here. She claims that she's looking for Zangetsu. Miriam says she just saw him as they were fighting on the train, and Dominique is immediately concerned about this. She gave him orders to go to the underground desert and look for Alfred. He urges us to stay safe and immediately runs away. This seems rather suspicious. Why would she be looking in the lab if he wasn't supposed to be here? No time to dwell on it now. Miriam nears the end of this area. A couple rooms further, she is ambushed by a very fast and very strange-looking creature, Bathan. He uses rays of light to travel at incredible speeds and bounce off walls. The most agile boss fought so far, he puts up quite a fight. But luckily, Miriam can see the path of his rays and makes sure she isn't clipped. Upon defeating Bathan, she absorbs a shard, the Reflector Ray, the very same ray that allowed him to travel. She can aim at a location regardless of the size, even bounce off the walls, and teleport to the end of the ray. This seems rather useful. In true Metroidvania style, Miriam now realizes many ways have opened to her with this ability. In particular, across from the blood-sucking librarian, there is a space that Miriam can teleport through that leads upwards towards the top of the castle. And Miriam now has access to the illustriously decorated Hall of Termination. This has to be it, the pinnacle of Hellhold, no doubt, where Miriam will find Jeeble and Gremory. But wait. Gremory. We never did find out their role in this. And where's Alfred? What was all that about the underground desert? Miriam is faced with a choice: to continue on to Jeeble and attempt to rescue his soul, or to uncover the secrets laying further in the castle. If Miriam chooses to confront Jeeble at this point, she ascends to the throne room of her demonically corrupted friend. She has decided to keep her promise to him, that if he wields his shard-bearing powers unwillingly, she will be forced to stop him. The two remaining shard-bearers, the two friends, fight until there is only one left standing. It is a difficult fight for Miriam, emotionally and physically, but she eventually lands a fatal blow. Jeeble, with his dying breath, ensures Miriam did the right thing and thanks her for putting him out of his misery. The final cutscene shows Miriam and Johannes outside the same galleon they arrived on. Johannes assures her that their job there is complete, and even though the castle remains, Dominique and the church will straighten it out. Miriam and the player no doubt feel empty. What was it all for? A bad feeling sets into her chest as the game fades to black. But you didn't seriously think that the end, did you? No, my dear visitor. Our tale continues at the moment Miriam decided to ascend the final room to the Hall of Termination. Instead, she stops. She believes there is more that she can do to find Jeeble. Maybe even save him. And the answer lies with Alfred. Finding Alfred is now Miriam's primary concern. He must know something. Something about the castle's origins and the powers that corrupt Jeeble. Where to start the search? Dominique mentioned an underground desert, but after studying the map, the only way forward that Miriam can find is through the cathedral. She heads that direction and stumbles upon a room with a giant bath with a drawn curtain. Someone seems to be inside. In my opinion, this fight marks a step up in boss difficulty and is likely a point where upgrading shards or considering different setups will be needed, as Miriam enters the late game. Even after the flying umbrellas that have crazier movement than the scythes of death in the original Castlevania, and after the endless torrents of blood hurled at Miriam, Bloodless is vanquished. The Sanguine Showerer releases a shard that Miriam can use to soak up vast quantities of blood. This is not only one of the only heal spells in the game, but is also used in an interesting way to open the path forward to the secret desert. If Miriam is astute, she will remember the giant fountain of blood towards the entrance of Hellhold. Maybe she can now get to the bottom. She soaks up the blood of the fountain, revealing a now available drop-down area, an entrance to a different portion of the waterway from earlier. Here, Miriam defeats a demon that yields a shard that allows her to traverse underwater. With the lower waterways now open to her, Miriam continues downward, underneath Hellhold, to discover what lies below. She eventually comes upon a giant, cavernous desert, filled with even harder demons than she has faced yet, including a particularly annoying one that puts Miriam in slow motion anytime it touches her. Truly a torturous abomination, one that reaches beyond the scream and torments the player's psyche. Eventually, Miriam comes upon the harbinger of a bad time, the save room, and a large boss door. Within, she finds Alfred, swearing that he told her to stay away from the castle. Reluctantly, he intends to seal Miriam in the desert out of his way, with a seal that was intended for another secret person he was expecting. However, the old man proves to be no match for our shard-infused heroine, and Alfred realized this as well. He cryptically says that he must find the book as it is their last chance, and teleports away yet again. Miriam pursues Alfred further into the desert and enters some sort of sorcery lab, deep underneath what would have been the Alchemists Guild headquarters. There she finds Alfred, and, in a shocking surprise, Dominique. They are talking about how they can't trust each other, that the trap Alfred was setting earlier was meant for her, that he doesn't know what she wants with the books, and even suspects her on a quest for revenge. Before more can be divulged, Alfred notices Miriam and teleports away. Dominique is now left behind to dissuade any doubt Miriam now has. Dominique explains to the confused Miriam that she sent Zangetsu to catch Alfred because she knew of the trap, and that she only wants the book so the church can confiscate it. Miriam presses about the accused revenge motivation, and Dominique confesses that her parents were also exorcists, and on the night of the demonic outbreak, they died. So she harbors a personal hatred towards demons and the Liber Logaeth. She wants to secure the book to prevent it from ever being used again. Miriam, with no real other choice, believes Dominique and agrees to continue helping in securing the book. With that, the two part ways, and Miriam explores more of this alchemical torture chamber. What vile experiments could have taken place here, she wonders, though she need not wonder long, for suspended in a tube of some sort of green liquid is her. Well, it certainly looks like her, but that doesn't make any sense. Before she has time to think, the doppelganger bursts out of the glass container and assaults Miriam. Able to wield the same weapons and even shard abilities as Miriam, the battle decides who truly is worthy of wielding such power. Another difficult fight, but Miriam proves there is simply no beating the original. Shaken by these events and some of the journal entries found, this area sows the seeds of doubt in Miriam's mind. She can trust no one, not even herself. To progress forward past this point gets a little vague, as without a thorough exploration of the castle, it seems Miriam is out of options. When I arrived at this point, I truly was just wandering around and zooming in on the map to see what I could possibly have missed. That's when I found a section near the entrance that, when you used invert, would take you to an impassable tunnel of spikes. Or so it would seem. There lies a chest hidden at the end of the Tower of the Twin Dragons that contains the Aegis Plate, a piece of armor whose text reads, a breastplate that nullifies all damage from traps and hazardous environments. There are troves of treasure throughout the game with unique benefits, some of them not even really mentioned on the piece. It can be very fun to mess around with different equipment and weapons, see what not only proves lethal, but what is the most fun. The nature of progression in this game, where all stats go up at the same time, the reasonability of leveling, and the unlimited bag space, relieves the stress of needing to know what stats to target before you even start. It also allows most items in the game to truly feel special, and possibly game-changing. The decision to make a single piece of armor, all but necessary to progress the true ending, is not unlike Metroidvania games, but it can certainly wear thin when there is such a large chance of missing the source entirely. With the Aegis Plate now in Miriam's possession, she is free to travel past the Tunnel of Spikes and onward to another sorcery lab. This time, this lab is filled with gates that, when passed through, teleport Miriam to another gate, so she must find the correct path through, fight through countless ninjas and monkeys, and of course attempt terminal velocity portal at least once. At the end of this secret laboratory is Zangetsu, and once again he is looking to fight Miriam. This time not to the death, as he is shown to be far more powerful than Miriam in a duel, but she must prove herself to Zangetsu, and worthy of taking his katana, the Zangetsuto. According to prophecy, only with this blade Gremory will be killed, and her insidious link to Jeeble severed, and since she knows about Zangetsu's presence, who's better to surprise her with the blade than Miriam? After beating Zangetsu in one of the game's most difficult fights, she takes the sword and now heads to end Gremory's domination of Jeeble's mind. She once again ascends to the throne room of Hellhold, encounters Jeeble, and the two begin fighting. This time, however, Miriam has a surprise, and when the blood-red moon of Gremory shows itself, she uses the Zangetsuto to slice it apart. At this moment, Gremory is revealed and is separated from the Liber Logaeth. Alfred then swoops in and picks it up, because of course he does. He teleports away and Gremory pursues. Miriam directs her attention to her dear friend. But alas, the damage to Jeeble looks severe. Only one thing dominates Miriam's mind now. She must destroy the castle, and to do that she must find Gremory and Alfred. Miriam finds where the blood moon is at its fullest. There she knows she will find Gremory. She slices open the moon and a mysterious portal opens up, creating a rift through time and space. Miriam traverses the portal into another strange part of the castle. Everything seems larger, Just then, Alfred stumbles into the room, and with labored breath, he says that she stole the book from him. Zangetsu and Johannes then enter, and it is evident that Zangetsu is here on Alfred's request. While Johannes works to heal Alfred, Zangetsu pulls Miriam aside and reveals to her what is truly happening in this castle. Dominique had seemed so keen on pitting Zangetsu and Alfred against each other that Zangetsu grew suspicious. He met with Alfred peacefully, and it would seem that the entire group of them had been getting played from the start. Alfred never wanted to kill Miriam. He only wanted to keep her as far away from the castle as possible, out of fear her greater attunement to the demonic shards would be used. Dominique had sent Zangetsu to deal with Alfred instead of sending Miriam and Zangetsu to deal with Jebel, which would have been the smarter play. Dominique had been manipulating them the entire time, and no one is sure why. Alfred calls Miriam over for a few words. He is obviously in very bad shape. He begs Miriam to forgive him for dragging her into this, for causing all this misfortune. Before Miriam can even respond, he dies. Heartbroken, Miriam and the team are now set on avenging Alfred and Jebel, and finding out just what is going on with Dominique. After fighting through the two toughest areas in the game, the Den of Behemoths and the Glacial Tomb, far, far below the castle, Miriam finds Gremory. Miriam hatched a plan with Zangetsu to use him as bait, as Gremory believes Zangetsu to be the true threat to her immortality. But Miriam is the one with Zangetsuto. Together, they take Gremory down. But not before Zangetsu is dragged to hell, presumed to be dead. No time to grieve for yet another fallen friend. Miriam fights on. She will find and kill Dominique. Surrounded by the frozen demons of untold power in a satanic ritual chamber, she finds the traitor. The confrontation reveals many things, but most importantly, that Dominique's plan is to use the Liber Logaeth to summon the King of Demons, Baal. She was planning on using Miriam as the conduit for summoning Baal into this plane of existence, but since Miriam was supplying Dominique with so many shards throughout the game, she became attuned enough herself. The fight with Dominique proves incredibly taxing. Miriam must use all of her power and agility to fight effectively against another shard bearer. Dominique's moveset is varied and powerful. One wrong move will result in a game over. Even so, Miriam triumphs and lands a final blow on Dominique, but just before she is killed, she finishes the summoning of her demonic overlord. Miriam is teleported into a hellish dimension, on top of the three-headed king of demons, Baal. Without even a chance to breathe between fights, Miriam is glad she stocked up on plenty of pizzas. The spectacle of this fight is incredible. I haven't mentioned the music too much in this video, but I have been playing it throughout. I can't overstate how much the music adds to the atmosphere, stakes, and intensity of each fight and location. Here, it reaches an all-time high, and it truly feels that if Miriam were to fail here, it will prove to be the end of the world as she knows it. Baal has a lot of health, and each head has its own hitbox and is constantly rotating around. Dominique protrudes out of a head and assaults Miriam with light beams. Attacking the head that she is on will actually kill the boss. Many jumps, narrow dodges, and game over screens later, Miriam vanquishes the essence of evil itself. The god of the grotesque, the Duke of Hell, Baal, is killed. After returning to the Glacial Tomb, Johannes uses the ritual work that Alfred had been doing around the castle to destroy the Liber Logaeth and bring down Hellhold itself. Finally, through all the losses, through all the slaughter, and through all the level-ups, there is peace again in Arvenville. Better yet, it is revealed that somehow Zangetsu has survived his trip to Hell and is alive. I do hope we get to see more of him in a future title. Miriam and Johannes debrief on the coast where it all began, and even though they have work to do, for now, they can rest. Welcome to the bestiary section of this story, where I take a look at some of the most powerful, scary, and otherwise interesting enemies within our game. Many of the bosses and enemies in this game are lifted straight from a real-life grimoire called the Lesser Key of Solomon, specifically from a book named Ars Geisha. Some significant ones include Baal, Vepar, Valak, and Grimory. Many others are based on mythology and folktales of cultures all around the world. I won't come close to doing the entirety of this demonic compendium justice, but I will take a look at some of the ones that have jumped out at me. A lion's head surrounded by 5 constantly rotating goat legs. Bure is a sight to behold. This 16th century demon first appeared in the grimoire Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, or False Monarchy of Demons. It is said Bure teaches something sinister, something so archaic it has no place in the 21st century. He teaches natural and moral philosophy, as well as the uses of all herbs and plants. In game, he will prove to be little more than a stepping stone for Miriam. That is if he's not on the ceiling. The second entry in our compendium of creatures is the Japanese kune-kune. It means wriggling body, and it is from a Japanese urban legend seemingly originating from the days of the early internet. It is described as being fabric-like, slender, and is most often found in fields outside of trains on hot summer days. It is likely that this will be the last demon Miriam comes across in the demon list, as it is something of an Easter egg, and one that takes some knowledge to uncover. I wonder if you'll be able to find it. Our last addition to the list is actually a group of enemies. I found them too adorable to leave off. If it wasn't for the demon energy coursing through them, I think Miriam and them would get along just fine. These are the realistic giant animal depictions that enter through portals, namely the cats, Nyaban, Kamikaze, and Macaron, as well as the dogs, Puppy, and Rocky. Their additions most likely come from the Kickstarter backer tier, Release the Hounds of Hell, which let the backer immortalize their pet as the enemy in-game. Welcome to the final section of this tale. Due to the unmatched success of the Kickstarter campaign, many stretch goals that included extra game content were added and achieved. It would seem that like any good zombie, Bloodstained would come crawling out of its grave for more. The first edition came in the form of an alternate playable character, the absolute fan favorite Zangetsu, Demon Slayer Extraordinaire. The way the developers decided to incorporate a new character is interesting. They are essentially a heroic guest, a separate but parallel tale of the same events in Hellhold. Zangetsu comes equipped with his own immutable moveset. It is varied and powerful, having answers to most combat encounters, and he also has access to a few movement techniques that allow him to move through the castle as he pleases, especially if the player is creative. Hellhold is immediately open to him, and he may take down any of the bosses in whichever order he would like. There are no cutscenes, dialogue, or progression-tied roadblocks. He also does not have a need for gear, and there are no items to collect, save permanent health and mana upgrades. It feels like more of a power fantasy romp through demons than the hard-fought, intricate playthrough Miriam offers. To me, this is an amazing addition, as it gives a whole new avenue to experiencing the game without all the baggage of a new playthrough. One of my favorite additions, albeit one that came with a pinch of disappointment, was the randomizer mode. The mode essentially gave the player a robust set of settings to customize their playthrough with. There were 8 parameters that could drastically change Miriam's quest, and more than likely make it even more nightmarish than it was originally. These parameters include the goal of the game, or the desired ending, key items being shuffled in or spawning from any loot source, save and warp rooms being mixed up, item spawns with the ability to make it so that each source retains the type of item, method of each item's acquisition, or total random for the true masochist. The player can similarly shuffle enemy drops to a mix of changed shards, mixed items, or again, total chaos. And lastly, they allowed players to shuffle crafting recipes, shop contents, and side quests. This could change how the game plays to an insane degree, so insane that if one was to attempt true chaos, I believe their minds would fall victim to the madness of the RNG old gods. This edition was unfortunately offered in place of a proposed mode in Kickstarter that would allow the randomization of each room of the castle. That would have truly been a sight to see. In case playing the good guy wasn't exactly what you signed up for and want to channel some of that demonic energy in a different way, well then I have the mode for you. Boss Revenge mode was added so that the player can play as the bosses that seemed oh so powerful against Miriam, and give them a second chance at beating one of the story's heroes. Each comes with a limited but fun moveset in the boss arena, and the player must fight their way through each of the hero encounters to succeed. There is a scoring system to give a little bit more replayability, as well as it being nice to put a number to the amount of hell raised. If that just wasn't enough bloodshed for you, maybe I can satiate your thirst with our next playable character, Bloodless. Controlling the Sculptor of the Sanguine is a delight for any vampires in the audience. A torrential downpour of crimson at her fingertips, Bloodless is out to prove that she is the most powerful of the demons. The last game mode addition to the game was Classic mode. In this mode, Miriam is back in a hellhole, but not as before. And in homage to the original Castlevania games, there are 5 levels to run through on a limited number of lives. Movement, combat, and items all invoke the charm of the days of Castlevania 1 through 4. This is more of a challenging experience if the player is not used to this style, but I think it is a deviously delightful way to kill an afternoon. The second to last major addition to the game was a 4th playable character. This time, it was an out-of-universe crossover, a character named Aurora from a game called Child of Light. She is similar to Zangetsu in freedom of progression and having a limited moveset. However, her moveset is also incredibly diverse. Much like Miriam, throughout her journey, Aurora gains power by defeating enemies and absorbing shards. And after defeating certain bosses, she will grow stronger and gain additional abilities as she ages. Each stage of her progression will add to her movement abilities and unlock previously inaccessible parts of the castle. Aurora's playthrough also features text-based cutscenes that offer insight into her unique journey through Arventville. Likewise, her individual path through the game requires a different objective than slaying Jeeble. The final edition, a relatively small one but interesting nonetheless, was a crossover area and boss fight with the game Journey. Entering this area, Miriam is transported to giant desert ruins, the size of which are not found anywhere else in the game, not even in the Den of Behemoths. Once she reaches the end of this monolithic structure, she is attacked by a new boss. I won't spoil anything here, but it is an interesting fight. As I was editing this video for release, there was an announcement that there would be even more DLC to come. It appears that up next, we will be getting a Chaos mode, a Versus mode, and a mode to play as your favorite villain, Dominique. I'm dying to know how that goes. I was trying to bury it. It just keeps coming back. Look. I mean, how does it even get down here? Like,